think of what I'm gonna... Whew. What the f? Hi, I'm Ross, and welcome to Crazy Couch, a new series where I attempt to reimagine video games to create new experiences. My brother and I have this tradition where every year we get each other a game that we know we really want to play. So 5 years ago, the remake of my favorite generation of Pokemon, Generation 3, came out. Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So we drove to GameStop together to get it, playing the Pokemon Master Quest and Advanced Battle theme songs. We spent about $150 on each other getting just the 2DS and the copy of the game, and it's one of my favorite Christmas memories. That story has nothing to do with the video. I just wanted to talk about Pokemon and Christmas. Pokemon and Christmas are two things that have a very close place to my heart, and fortunately the two are not mutually exclusive. From Pokemon events to trading card art to fan-made ROMs of the games to a specific Christmas Pokemon album.
Ash, did you realize we're standing under the mistletoe? Huh?
So that's the Pokemon Christmas Bash. However, the more I thought about it, the more I remembered a very specific episode from the animated series that dealt with Christmas. There are actually 4 episodes that included Santa Claus as a canon character in the Pokemon anime. But I did more digging and I found out in 35 core series games, Santa Claus doesn't appear once, which is an outrage. And if Game Freak refuses to give Santa his proper representation in the series, I guess I have to. I've developed a method of canonizing Pokemon in the core series by designing an alternate playthrough of the game that allows you to become Santa and challenge the Elite Four. Alternate methods of playing the game already exist, such as Nuzlocke, and they rely on self-imposing a system of rules to make the game different and more challenging. We'll be doing the same thing, but with a holiday twist. So the first thing we're gonna have to do is create a backstory and choose a setting for Santa. If we don't develop a rich fiction, our canon is going to fall flat and become directionless. The next step of the process is going to be self-imposing our own system of rules for the playthrough. And finally, we're going to do some troubleshooting and see how playable the system actually is. Now, before we can get started with creating a backstory or self-imposing any rules, we have to choose what game we're going to play in. Now, to determine this, I've realized that we have to pick a region where we can feasibly find Santa's team pretty early, and his team is shown in the anime. It includes Stantler, Lapras, Delibird, and Jinx. So this disqualifies a lot of the regions. SoulSilver is really the best option, which is awesome because I only own Heart Gold. And the only reason I chose SoulSilver is because you can't catch Delibird in Heart Gold. You have to trade it. I don't even like Delibird, but we'll get to that. What am I doing? What's a good thing to do?
Why don't you try to kick Joseph Campbell's ass?
Yeah, fuck Joseph Campbell, let's do it. We've got our setting. We're in the Johto region. Why is Santa here? Let's figure it out. We need a template to set up the story. I have chosen Hero's Journey, as coined by Joseph Campbell in his book, Hero with a Thousand Faces. We begin our story not in the Johto region, but in the North Pole, the ordinary world of Santa, where we last see him in the episode Holiday Hijinks, in which Team Rocket is trying to steal all of his gifts and rob his Christmas power. Of course, they're unsuccessful, but at some point, Christmas has to get taken from Santa. Enter Jack Frost from Tim Allen's The Santa Claus 3 Escape Clause. Frost's ultimate goal is to trick Santa into renouncing his position. If Scott, Santa, holds the globe and says, "I wish I'd never been Santa at all," he will go back in time and undo his career as Santa. At some point, we can presume that in the North Pole, Jack Frost tricked Pokemon anime Santa into relinquishing his position as the magical Santa and giving Jack Frost this position. Santa has to go back to Johto to live with his mother. Santa has been transformed into a 10-year-old child, Dragon Ball GT style, and he's lost all of his Christmas power. Now, you might already be asking yourself, isn't Santa thousands of years old? His mother should probably have bit the dust by now. Obviously, you haven't recently read the Wikipedia entry for Fred Claus. Fred Claus, the 2007 American fantasy comedy adventure film Wikipedia reads, when Nick becomes a saint due to all of his good deeds, he, Fred, and Mother and Father Claus become frozen in time, never to age. However, he has to refuse the call, at least magically. Santa needs a way to save Christmas in a tangible human way since he's become a human, so he decides to do it financially. Santa realizes he's going to have to purchase a present for everybody in the Pokemon world. I did the math, that's 6,187 people, but we'll get to the logistics of that. The next step is going to be meeting the mentors. Professor Elm sets Santa on his path by giving him his first starter Pokemon, and he's the first helper. You cross the first threshold when you find the first gem in Violet City. This is the first time that Santa faces any trials and has to overcome the human condition by really learning how to use his Pokemon. Over the course of the Johto region, you're going to encounter a lot of tests, allies, and enemies. This encompasses all of your encounters with legendary Pokemon, facing all the gyms, encountering your rival, Silver. I'm just trying to, every time, I have to get through this JPEG, this sweet high-res image of my boy Silver, aka Jack Frost and Canon. You're finally going to approach the innermost cave, which is going to be the Dragon's Den, right before Gym 8, because it's a cave. A little arbitrary on my part. Upon entering the Kanto region and taking your first steps, you start to see that there's some environmental havoc. You notice that the Viridian Forest is completely destroyed. Cinnabar Island, is Cinnabar Island like underwater?
It got destroyed by a volcano and it's being swallowed up by the sea.
Jesus. Santa is enraged with humanity for causing this environmental chaos to the world that he is the steward of. And now he doesn't know what to do with his anger, so he goes through the Kanto region and lays waste to all of the gyms of the trainers that we knew and love in Red and Blue. It's a great arc of benevolence to revenge. Santa finally tries to make his road back home, but he can't go back to the North Pole because the ice caps have melted. So he climbs to the top of Mount Silver and finally has his moment of resurrection, his climax, when you face Red, the champion of the Kanto region, played by Vince Vaughn, Fred Claus. Once you defeat him, you have your moment of returning home with the elixir, but you can never truly go home. You finally make your workshop at the top of Mount Silver and restore your place as Santa, a new Santa with a new perspective on Pokemon and people. And that's canon. Now that we've weaved a thick tapestry of fiction, we can delve into the rules of our gameplay. These rules will shape the run, and so it's important that we get a good perspective on Santa's behavior in the animated series to lend to the core series. My tummy rumbled. In the animated series, we see that Santa, he has a much more utilitarian view of Pokemon than a trainer. He uses Pokemon for things like shining his shoes, creating his gifts, flying through sickness, and even stealing presents from humans, I think, is what Delibird was doing in Delibird's Dilemma. Santa lacks respect for his Pokemon, and this is going to shape the rule set. Because Santa doesn't really understand Pokemon, he's going to stick with the Pokemon that he knows in the animated series. This includes Lapras, Delibird, Stantler, and Jynx. And this is going to be the first rule. Chris's crew. You can only use these 4 Pokemon in the run. Now this is going to be pretty difficult, especially because some you don't get until later in the game. So there are 3 clauses to alleviate some of the problems caused by this rule. The first clause is going to be the starter clause. So you can choose your own starter, but by the time you get to Stantler, you have to catch a Stantler and immediately release your starter. The second clause is the HM clause. The HM clause simply states that you need HMs to get through the game, so you're allowed to catch Pokemon and use them for HMs, but you cannot use them for battling at all. The third clause of this rule is the Ponyta clause. Ponyta clause states that once you enter the Kanto region, you can catch Ponyta. You originally see that Santa did use a Ponyta as his reindeer, which was replaced by Stantler in Stantler's Little Helpers. However, now that you've seen the destruction that humans can cause, as well as the good that Pokemon can do in your Johto journey, Santa has a newfound respect for his Ponyta, and he takes him back into his arms. However, there is a sub-clause for this clause, a Fred clause, if you will. You cannot evolve Ponyta. I cannot make this clear enough. Santa doesn't evolve Ponyta in 2 separate episodes. Ponyta appears in the short Christmas nights, and he also appears in Holiday Hijinks, and he never evolves into a Rapidash. If Santa doesn't evolve Ponyta, we don't evolve Ponyta. The second rule of this playthrough is going to be called the Giving Shift Tree. This rule basically states that because of your focus on the financial side of the game, trying to get a present for everybody in the region through buying it, you're not going to be able to use any of the items that you get in the game. Instead, you're going to have to sell them or store them in the PC to give away later. Now, I did the math on this, and since there's 6,187 people approximately in the Pokemon world, that's at least $618,700 that you're going to have to collect just to get everybody a $100 antidote. That's a lot of money, and if you want to get people anything nicer, that's exponentially more. So no items. However, there are 2 clauses for this rule. The first clause for this rule is the Nature Clause. The Nature Clause basically states that because we see Santa using things like berries in the Stantler's Little Helpers episode, Santa knows how to use apricorns, berries, and herbs. So anything that you can find naturally or any natural ingredients that you're given, you can use those. The second clause of this rule is the Kanto Clause. Once you get to Kanto, this rule is muted. You're no longer focused on being the Santa of the people. You're no longer on a rush to collect as much money as you can. You can use items again. And that's it. 2 rules, 5 clauses total. Pretty simple, right? Let's troubleshoot it and find out. I realize this run is probably gonna have more than a few problems, mostly due to the lack of diversity of the team. You have very late access to a lot of the members of your team. That's just the Wikipedia for Fred Claus. You can't get Stantler until after the 3rd gym. You can't get Lapras until after the 4th gym. And Delibird and Jinx, you can't get until right before the 8th and final gym of the Johto region. I thought that you could get Jinx early with a small chance of getting a Smoochum from an egg that you get in one of the early towns, but that's only in Crystal. So no Jinx until the Ice Path, right before Blackthorn City. I read a lot of Bulbapedia articles this week. Next troubleshoot is Ghost type gym. At the point when you fight the Ghost type gym, which is the 4th gym, you've just caught your Stantler, and he is normal type, and he can't affect ghosts. Stantler has no business being this thick. Look at this thickie. Look at this thick king. Berries are not grown in the ground in Johto region for some reason, but you can use Rock Smash to find shards and trade them to jugglers in Violet City. What if you accidentally evolve Ponyta? I figured this out. So what you're gonna wanna do is find an Everstone by getting 2nd place in the bug catching competition. Another issue is accidentally using HM Pokemon. Say for example, you're in a cave using strength and you don't get a chance to put away the HM Pokemon because you don't want to use it in battle. If you accidentally use it in battle, it's all right. You just have to turn off your game immediately. These are hard rules. If you find yourself in a battle with an HM Pokemon, that Pokemon's dead. Santa doesn't know how to direct that. Is it Delibird? No. Is it Lapras? No. Is it Jinx? No. Is it Stantler? No. Santa's gonna leave it to die, and you should too. Another issue is getting enough money. $618,700 minimum is a lot, and you're gonna need to find the amulet coin. The amulet coin is gonna be in the Goldenrod department store basement. So, have fun with that. With this, you're probably going to have to use the Pokegear with the phone function to re-challenge a lot of trainers. It is worth noting, Wild Kanto Pokemon aren't leveled higher than in Gen 1, so once you get to Kanto region, you're gonna be finding like level 2, 3, 5 Pokemon again. Can't grind on those bad boys, so have fun with that Pokegear. You can find the experience share. You can win it in the lottery at the Goldenrod department store. You can also trade it for a red shard at the end of the game to Mr. Pokemon. That's his real name. He lives in Route 30. I want to talk about Delibird. I never looked into Delibird that much. I've never used Delibird. I probably wouldn't have had any problem with somebody who used Delibird. But I'm looking at Delibird's stats right now. It has no evolution. Its base stats cap at about 330. It has 4 weaknesses. One of them, it's 4 times weak against rock. It learns 1 move. It learns 1 move called Present. And do you want to know what Present can do? There's a 20% chance that instead of doing damage, Present heals the target Pokemon for 25%. I'm so glad that our team caps at Lapras with 535 base stats. Jinx isn't great either. Jinx has 35 base defense. I didn't know it went that low, but it does. It's really gonna come in handy against one issue, which is fighting Red. When you fight Red Fred Claus at the end of Mount Silver, he's got level 88 Pikachu, level 80 Lapras, level 82 Snorlax, level 84 Venusaur, level 84 Charizard, level 84 Blastoise, and you have a Delibird, a Ponyta, a Lapras, a Jinx, and a Stantler. You're gonna be fine, I guess, against the Charizard. I mean, you can use Surf against Charizard. That's fine. Blastoise, you can find Thunder. You can find Thunder in the Goldenrod department store. You can find Earthquake for Stantler against Pikachu. That Snorlax is gonna be a problem. I guess you could use Jump Kick. Jump Kick's fighting. Jump Kick is a fighting physical move, and Stantler has good attack. 95 attack, that's not bad. That's really not bad. I wouldn't mind having Stantler on a team, that's fine. Why does Red have a Lapras? Why? Why do you have 3 ice types? We have 3 ice types on the team, and one of them is Delibird. Why does he have Delibird? Why does he have Delibird to steal from humans in Delibird's Dilemma? That's straight. I didn't talk about this enough. Santa straight up is using Delibird to enter humans' houses and take presents to give him to deliver to children on Christmas Eve. And then he's using Delibird to fight A Charizard. Delibird dies. Santa doesn't know how to use potions. You know what? Let's just add another rule that says Santa doesn't use Pokemon centers because he's gonna be going pretty incognito. He doesn't want to prove that he's Santa because he's using a Delibird and a Lapras and a Stantler and a Jinx and a whatever the fuck else he's using. Fuck! That's all the problems that you have with the Santa canon run of SoulSilver. If for some reason you find any other problems, you know, Bulbapedia is pretty helpful. You now have the tools that you need to play your own Santa canon run of SoulSilver. Is the system perfect? No. Have I seen nothing but Pokemon metadata for the past 5 days? Yeah. Was it worth it? Hope so. Like this video if you like it, subscribe if you want to see more monstrosities like this, and hey, if you want to play this run, let me know how it goes. Tweet at me, comment on the video. If you want, bring over your DS, we can kick it. Pop in a couple of hot Zaws, train some Stantlers, and maybe you can trade me a Delibird.